Hi, this is LC Clements, and on today's episode of Lone Wolf Chat, we're going to talk about NaNoWriMo, which is right around the corner. Now, before I get started, you may hear something a little different. This time around, I'm doing a vlog episode as well as my podcaster episodes. So if you're watching this on YouTube, hello to all my YouTube subscribers. If you're listening on podcast, hello all my podcast subscribers. So I decided to talk about NaNoWriMo, which is abbreviated for National Novel Writers Month, because this is the one time of the year all writers seem to get together and go through this crazy type of year where everybody tries to mash and write 50,000 words in 30 days, which is a huge feat in itself. In fact, I even did the math on it. You have to write 1,660. It's actually 1,666.6, but to round up 1,667 words for 30 days just to reach that goal. Now, just to get started, I got a little bit of notes here. Probably hear my paper around here. So what is NaNoWriMo? I've already said it's National Novel Writers Month. It starts from November 1st to November 30th. It's actually started back on July 1st, 1999 by Chris Beatty, who's a freelance writer, and all started in California, and it kind of just grew from there. And it looks like this particular this particular movement wasn't affected by the internet crash of the 2000s. It kind of survived onwards. And the goal, as I said before, is to write 50,000 words in 30 days. And there are a set of rules. It starts at 12 a.m. on November 1st and ends November 30th at 11:59 p.m. local time. So they don't mean central just because you live on the East Coast. So if you live on the East Coast, it's 11:59 East Coast time. You can't start early and in 30 days from the start point. So basically, you can work on your outline, you can do your plotting, not plotting. You can work on your plot, you can work on your outline, you can work on your character development, but you can't literally start the story until November 1st. You must put in 50,000 words by November 30th to win. So it's sort of a competition. And there are writers out there who have done National Novel Writers Month and have gone on to write different series such as Cinder by Marissa Mayer, which I actually do enjoy. Cinder. Make a long background story short, Marissa Mayer's series is known for Cinderella. Then you have Rapunzel's story. You have Winter, which is Snow White. So you have different Scarlet for Red Riding Hood. So you have different interpretation of the fairy tale genre. You also have the plot of Sailor Moon. Has a Sailor Moon like element, which she said was her inspiration for the storyline. We also have the very famous story, which I've already kind of criticized on, which was also somehow written on Wattpad, but also did NaNoWriMo, which I'm actually really surprised to hear about. But the story got really popular, so that's another series. There are a couple writers out there, and I'm sure I'm missing a couple names out there, but those are the two that I really do remember that were famous for winning NaNoWriMo. And I know that the people who win NaNoWriMo, I believe they do get a book deal. I'm not sure if it's still true now, but when I first tried it back in like 2013, you could get a book deal. I'm not sure about that now. Like I said, I would check the website just to make sure. Now, okay, I just said this before. I was just looking at my notes. You can plot, but you can't start the novel early. It says stuff already written before November 1st can be submitted. I don't think that's true because I got it from the Wattpad. I mean, not Wattpad. Wikipedia. I think it's anything written before November 1st, in my opinion, shouldn't be submitted because it's supposed to start and then stop in 30 days. So it's kind of like cheating. And any genre can be submitted, even fan fiction. So NaNoWriMo is a movement to get everybody together. And it's to get people encouraged to writing. For people who are procrastinating writers, such as myself, it's a time and place to get us all together so we can all write and be encouraged to write every single day so we can all become published authors. Now, I do have some hangups and criticisms for NaNoWriMo. It's not entirely negative, it's just from my perspective on how NaNoWriMo can be used as a good thing and can be used as a bad thing. For one, the whole fan fiction thing. Now, I know I shouldn't be saying this because I have written fan fiction. I'm not the best fan fiction author. I will say that right out the gate. But I have a criticism towards fan fiction due to the fact that fan fiction is not, and I guess I got this from my creative writing teacher, fan fiction is not, fan fiction is a series of stories that were already created by a different author, and you're changing the story almost like to somewhat benefit either your needs, to benefit an audience. Now, in some cases, I see where fan fiction, I started from the beginning from writing with fan fiction before I started doing anything else. And if you ever read my old fan fiction, like way back to like 2000, it's god awful. Like, I would never want my worst enemy to read my fan fiction, to be honest. But I see why fan fiction is necessary in a way. But with that being said, I have a bias against fan fiction being used as a subject, not because I want to discourage young writers, but because with fan fiction, that's a double-edged sword, because one, that's someone else's work that you're trying to alter. And we've all heard of stories where original authors have gotten really, really PO'd at people who wrote fan fiction about their stories. A big one is Anne Rice. Anne Rice is a big proponent of do not mess with my work. This is what I've written. Please take it off. If you ever been to fanfiction.net and been on the website or researched the website, there was a big lawsuit with Anne Rice and fanfiction.net where no one could write fanfiction for her work anymore. You couldn't ship her characters anymore, and it was kind of a damper, and they began axing other characters. I don't know if they still have Harry Potter. I think Harry Potter was on the list. There were songs that were on there that were used in fanfiction. You couldn't do that anymore. Excuse me. I mean, yeah, Anne Rice wasn't the first. Anne Rice was the cat. I'm sorry, Anne Rice was her name. Anne Rice, who wrote, why can't I say the names? Village of the Damned. No, it wasn't Village of the Damned. She wrote the big Brad Pitt movie, which was something of the Damned. I can't remember. It's gonna kill me. I know I'm probably gonna have to Google it, but she wrote a big vampire series, and in her stories, they didn't have kids. They don't reproduce. Like, pretty much everything. Sex was pretty much off the board. Let's put it that way. So we have these, nowadays we have these Queen of the Damned. That's the one. Interview with the Vampire and Queen of the Damned. Interview with the Vampire was made back in the 90s when Kirsten Dunst was a kid. And she played this really, really evil little girl who, and then you have Queen of the Damned, which is pretty much a sequel if you watch the movie. I've never really read her books 100% through, and I hate to say that, but I know I'm going off topic, but I will go back to the NaNoWriMo topic. I just want to talk about it real quick. I know that Anne Rice got really pissed off when they were using her characters for fan fiction purposes, and basically they put an axe to that. They put an axe to a lot of songs, because songs are copyrighted, and you can't just be going around using other people's stuff for your own purposes. Then came other works. I'm sure Anne Rice isn't the first one to get really, really PO'd at fan fiction. I can't think of their names right now, but I know for a fact that are you kidding me right now? Hold on. Okay, so we're back. I had a little bit of an audio issue with my podcast. But let's get started. Let me get back to what I was talking about. So another author was Laurel K. Hamilton. She wrote a very hard-boiled vampire paranormal romance series, and she didn't want her fan fiction to be written. So with respect, fanfiction.net got rid of the categories in question. But with that being said, now Laurel came, not Laurel, Anne Rice has come back and said, at 20 years ago, I was afraid it was going to mess with my work, stifle me. But now that I, understand what fan fiction is used for, I understand it now. Now, moving on from not just with fan fiction, I have a only because the only criticism I really have towards fan fiction in NaNoWriMo is the fact that I feel like a lot of new authors may have a hard time coming out of the box when it comes to their written work. And I say that from a personal standpoint. At one point, and this was under a different username. It was like years ago, and even now I try to do it, and I find it really hard. I was writing Digimon fan fiction. I was writing Sailor Moon fan fiction. I was writing Gundam Wing fan fiction. I was writing fan fiction from out the hoo-ha. And I'm telling you, if I ever find it, I will probably post it one day. It is god awful. It is terrible. So much padding, so much dialogue. And that's what I worry about for new authors. If they focus on the fan fiction, will they be able to create their own characters, their own creativity process? Now, that's one issue with fan fiction. The second issue with fan fiction is how much backlash that the writer might get from other authors. Case in point, E.L. James' work, 50 Shades of Grey. I think it's atrocious. I think it's a mess. Only because I tried to read it. First of all, the grammatical errors were terrible. Secondly, and when I started reading this plot, I'm like, this is really kind of messed up. I can't condone reading this. And I read erotica all the time. This one was just like, ugh. But my sister loves it, But when I found out that if this was just a Twilight fan fiction, all you did was kind of change the characters. Now, what the author did, and I'm going to go back to NaNoWriMo, I promise you, I will go back to Nano in a minute. The author used the term, which is what we call alternative universe. So it's the same characters in a different setting in a different universe. And essentially, I get it, if your characters were in a different universe setting or whatever, it probably would be a better video, a better story. So to make a long story short, we used Christian's character and portrayed Anna, which is a different character, into this, dominant submissive relationship, and that became a hit. Problem with this was when a lot of people found out that this was a Twilight fan fiction, a lot of authors went kind of cuckoo. And it's because you have all these people who actually put in the time to write these stories, and then you turn around and took your fan fiction and turn it into a hit story. It was kind of like, really? That's all we need to do? So what about all our work? What about what we've done over the many years? So that's where the problem I have lie with fan fiction. There's so many stuff with it. It can set you up. For me, it can keep you in those same fan fiction-y tropes, which I'm sure there are other book YouTubers out there who could probably explain better with tropes than I can. I'm just gonna get this video here. Maybe I just sit back. There we go. Fan fiction tropes better than I can. The other thing is, with the NaNoWriMo is, I'm afraid that a lot of new young writers will set themselves up for failure. And what I mean by that is, I'm not saying people are dumb. Let me just say that from the door, because someone's going to say, oh my God, Elsie Clemens thinks people are dumb. No, I'm not saying that. The other criticism I have for NaNoWriMo is I feel like they're going to set themselves up for failure. What do I mean by this? You have people who set their expectations really, really high. And when they get to that point where they don't reach their goal, they feel like they should give up. And what do I mean by this? Well, let's say, for example, you do the NaNoWriMo, and let's say you're like 13, 14, possibly 10, and you write this story, and you do 23,000 words. Let's say you've gotten all the friends online, you made all the accolades online, and I'm not saying that, again, that kids are dumb or anything like that. I don't want to say like you will, failure is the best goal for you and winning is the best goal for you. It's not a big competition on NaNoWriMo as much as you think it is. But My problem is if these kids don't make it. Let's say you're one of those high achieving kids. No, that's not, let me not use that analogy. Let's just say you're one of those kids that you were banking, you had your whole heart banking on NaNoWriMo, that you were going to make them 50,000 words. And let's just say you have family, and I'm sure there are many people out there who have experienced this that probably can tell you this. Not particularly my parents, but I have seen friends who this happened to. You don't make the $50,000 words, and you feel like such a failure for not making those 50,000 words. And all of a sudden, you hear, well, I told you I ain't gonna make it. You ain't that good. And then the kid wants to give up because they didn't make the competition. So that's the problem I have with NaNoWriMo. Like the hype and the expectation that you have to make these 50,000 words. And if you don't make it, then you're a failure. And then you want to give up on writing. I know that's not the goal of NaNoWriMo. The goal of NaNoWriMo is to get you off your butt and actually write a book. And, not so much as write, but get yourself into the habit of writing every day to do better than what you've done before. That's my main thing in the back of my head, that some kid's going to get on this site, or adults, sometimes adults can do that too, get on the site, try to write for NaNoWriMo, and then find out that they're not as good as they thought they were, and then boom, you just give up writing. And that's always been my main goal. But I know that they try to put disclaimers, and I know that they try to go out there and say, no, you know what, this is not the goal to win, to 100% win. It's just to get you off your butt and actually do better than what you've done before. And I get that. It's just that there's always going to be that reserve in the back of my mind. Now, with that being said, I don't hate NaNoWriMo. I think it's a good idea. You meet new writers, you get new writer groups, you learn to collaborate, you learn characterization, and you get more encouragement than you probably would in the real world. Because let's face it, when you're a writer and you tell people, oh, I'm a writer, they go, okay, then what do you do to make money? Like, no one really, there are people out there who will not support your writing. I know that personally. And they'll go, well, do you have something to fall back on? And of course, at that point, I go, yes, dang it, I have a full-time job just like everybody else. But the point of NaNoWriMo is to get you into the encouragement of writing and to be the greatest writer you can ever be. So NaNoWriMo is a good thing in context. I love the point of sitting here and competing with each other. I love the point of supporting each other and getting those words down. I love the fact that you can go online, put your photo up there and click away and tell them your word count and tell them what you're doing. And you can go online and post. Like right now, they have a NaNoWriMo prep going on that I just downloaded, and I'm printing off when I get a chance to get to a printer, the worksheets. So you can start your characterization. So you can start plotting early. So when you get time to the writing portion of it, you won't be lost. I do love those portions. I just will always have this niggling feeling in the back of my head that something could be off. And it's not saying that NaNoWriMo is this most horrible thing. I'm repeating that multiple times because I know someone out there is going to take this the wrong way. I just worry about the young people. Now, with me personally, yes, I will be participating in NaNoWriMo, even though I'm already working on a draft for a different book. I already know what I'm going to write for NaNoWriMo, which is going to be this futuristic, I love alternate, futuristic paranormal romance stories. And this one's going to be about the Greek gods. And it's going to be interesting, to say the least, because I know it's going to be my first draft, so I know it's going to suck. But the point is to get those 50,000 words down and walk away from my draft and come back to it later. Now, if you're going to do NaNoWriMo, I would suggest to go to nanowrimo.org, go on the website, and register. Find out where your region is. And you can get on the Discord page. I've already been on Discord a couple times when I get off of work and when I'm not working on my book. When I have free time, I actually do go on the site. Find some friends, encourage each other. But always remember that this is a fun competition. It's not meant to take each other down. It's not meant to knock each other over. It's meant to get you off your butt and actually writing. I want to encourage everybody who is a first-time writer to do NaNoWriMo, but my criticisms are for the young people because we have a lot of impressionable people out there. If you're a young person watching this, do know that I want you to do NaNoWriMo, but do not get discouraged if you didn't make 50,000 words. The point is that you did this. And don't just do 50,000 words and then walk away from, don't do less than 50,000 words and then walk away from your writing. No. What you want to do is do NaNoWriMo. If you don't make the goal, that's fine. If you do make the goal, I am so proud of you. You've done way more than the rest of us can do. Not much the rest of us can do, but more than what, I may be capable of doing at this time. With NaNoWriMo, the point is to meet other writers, get off your butt and write, and actually do better. The point is to get better year after year after year. And another thing is, don't just walk away from your book. Now, try to keep writing at it. Now, let's say you've made the 50,000 words, and I've heard this before, and it probably will be the best thing to do because I've gone through a thing and have been burnt out before writing other stuff. Not just fan fiction. I'm talking about something else, like when I was writing term papers or what have you. Walk away from it. For books, most people will tell you walk away for a month or two. And I know it's hard to walk away from your work for a month or two, but you want to come back with a refreshed brain and a refreshed mind because you're going to be making at least 1,667 words. Think about that for a second. 1,667 words. Your brain's going to be fried probably by the end of this. So walk away from 2 months, probably come back in January with a brand new year. Look at your work, reread it. Take it apart, see what needs to be taken out, then go back on and rewrite it. Then once you're done rewriting it, walk away again. Come back after 2 months and see how it looks then. Third draft in. After third draft, you should have most of the mistakes hopefully gone. You should be more satisfied at that point. Then take it, I would, if I were you, before taking it to an editor, I would take it to your beta read. If you could find a group of beta readers, especially if you go on NaNoWriMo, you might be able to find some. If not, I'm sure there's plenty. There's 20 books to 50K is the one I know on Facebook. Take it to them. Truck again. Let them read it. See how it goes. Then get an editor to get out all the grammatical errors you may have missed, and then go to publishing and getting the cover done and stuff. You will thank yourself more by keep coming back and rewriting it and getting it perfected before going to publishing. Now, I just want to also point out, there's no such thing as perfection. There's no such thing as perfection. What your book's going to be may not be the same book as what someone else is going to be for them. Now, I'm not going to discourage anybody from their writing or what they're doing, but I will say this. Perfection is more of a social construct than anything else. Nothing is perfect. If you're going to do the NaNoWriMo and do the publishing, then you're going to have to go through some criticisms. And criticisms are terrible. I'm sure people are commenting on my podcast right now how terrible I am about what I'm talking about right now. But you know what? I'm going to keep trying because one day I am going to make it. And that's what I want to encourage a lot of people to do. If they're going to do NaNoWriMo, you're not going to have the most perfect work. And that's not saying you're going to be terrible at it, but nobody is perfect. Do not go into this thing being complete perfectionist. It will drive you insane. I know this because I've done it before and I've burnt myself out doing it. You are not a perfection. Do not become that perfectionist. Another thing is, if you need to change your characters up, then change them up. No one's forcing you to keep it to that linear storyline. I am more of a pantser than a plotter. But for purposes of NaNoWriMo, to make sure I'm staying on track, I do have to plot. Something that really drives me crazy. And oftentimes, some parts of the plot will change. That's normal. That's normal. Don't be discouraged from doing this, okay? Do what you love. If this is, first of all, like I'm going to say again, this is going to be your first draft. It's not going to be like the ultimate draft, I should say. It is your first draft. So no one's going to see this first draft except for you. Go crazy with your story. Go crazy. Do what you need to do to get that story written. And I mean, don't cheat. So don't just take your old fan fiction and plop it on there. I know I'm going to take a shot for this, but don't take your old fan fiction and just plop it on there and then try to say, oh, I made 50,000 words in the first day. First of all, that's really suspicious. And I'm just going to get my charger here. Second of all, you won't feel great at the end of this. You won't feel great at the end of this by taking some old work and plopping it on there. Do what you can. Write what you know. Be the best you can at this. Don't be discouraged by some people nagging you and saying you ain't that good. You ain't never gonna be good. You might as well go back to your edge. You doing this, doing that. You're really good at work with children. Go back to doing your education. Go back to doing your call center, girl. Go back to working on your little plot. Excuse me. Go back to working on that school bus because you ain't never going to be nothing. Don't let these people discourage you. Do what you want to do. If you want to write for NaNoWriMo, then do it. Just don't fall into the perfection plot hole of trying to be something. The final, hopefully, because it's going on 30 minutes almost, the final thing I want to say is this. Do not go back and look at your writing in the middle of writing. I have done this NaNoWriMo for the first year in the row. I went back after I wrote a paragraph, went back to go, does this make sense? Let me just rewrite this. And I got stuck on one portion of the story and never finished. I only did 16,000 words. No, wait, it was 16,254 words. And that was it. I pretty much dropped off of NaNoWriMo and I couldn't do anything else because I was stuck on this one scene, but I kept going back and looking at it. Just keep writing. It's going to be terrible no matter what. Just keep going. The point is to get it done, to know and get yourself a personal fulfillment that you have made those 50,000 words. And also, I know there's going to be, I'm going to do a video on what I'm going to do as a survival kit. That will be coming up soon. But other than that, I just want to wrap it up. Thank you so much for listening, on my podcast listeners. Thank you for watching on my YouTube channel. Please, if you want more information, please check out my website, which is lonewolfchat.com. I'm also on Twitter, which is @LCClements. Donations are always welcome to keep the production going. You can, it's down in the description below, but it's also ko-fi.com/LCClements. You can always check me out there. Other than that, I will chat with you guys again soon.